Women in Aviation, Guided Close Read. Aviation, the operation of aircraft, dates back to the first balloon flights in the late 1700s. In the 1890s, the first gliders, airplane-like aircraft without engines, were flown. But it was not until 1903 that the Wright brothers made the first successful flight in an engine-powered aircraft, the airplane. Airplane flight really took off during and after World War I from 1914 to 1918, which saw a more widespread use of airplanes for military purposes. Authors write for a reason. We call this the author's purpose. Authors of informational texts often write to inform or explain, presenting facts and other information about a topic. Reread lines 1 through 8. Cite evidence that helps identify the author's purpose. Pause while you think. The purpose is to inform because the authors include information about women aviators in the early days of aviation in America. The authors also explain that despite prejudice, some women and African Americans still dreamt of becoming aviators. As you read, you can draw conclusions or make judgments about or take positions on a topic. You should base these conclusions on evidence, experience, and reasoning. To support your conclusions, you should cite textual evidence in the form of facts and details. Authors can have more than one purpose for writing. For example, in an informational text, a writer might include fun details or interesting facts in order to entertain the reader as well as inform. Reread lines 23 through 33. Identify details that both entertain and inform. Pause while you think. One example, the quotation from Harriet Quimby, "Flying is easier than voting," was said with a smile and a wink. This detail adds some humor to the piece, making it both informative and fun to read. An author's choice of words can affect the meaning and tone of a passage. Tone is the author's attitude toward a topic or the way the author sounds, such as angry, outraged, or amused. Reread lines 74 through 77. Identify words that suggest a more conversational, informal tone. What might this reveal about the author's attitude toward Bessie Coleman? Pause while you think. The words, "and besides, she couldn't speak a word of French," have a more conversational tone. This suggests a familiarity and understanding of Coleman by the authors, almost as if they were talking about someone they actually know and admire. While the overall topic of this informational text is women in aviation, the authors chose to focus on just two women aviators, Harriet Quimby and Bessie Coleman. Reread lines 86 through 88 and think about the information you read earlier about Harriet Quimby. What conclusion can you draw about the significance of these two aviators? Pause while you think. Both aviators were firsts to become aviators. Quimby was the first woman and Coleman was the first African American woman. The conclusion can be made that the experiences of people who are first at something reveal the struggle and determination it takes to succeed. An author's choice of words often helps reveal a purpose for writing a certain section of text. Reread lines 97 through 99. Identify words that reveal the author's purpose in this section. What do these word choices reveal about the author's purpose? Pause while you think. The words "thrilled audiences" and "daredevil maneuvers" suggest excitement and courageousness. The authors want to show how fearless and entertaining Coleman and Quimby were as aviators. These choices by the authors are both informative and entertaining. They also help create a more vivid description for the reader. Amelia Earhart was famous for being the first woman and second person to make a solo airplane flight across the Atlantic Ocean. This 1932 flight from Canada to France made Earhart one of the most famous people in the world. Earhart's interest in flying was sparked at age 10 when she saw an aviation exhibition much like the ones in which Bessie Coleman and Harriet Quimby performed. Reread lines 137 through 145. Explain why the authors chose to quote Amelia Earhart at the end of the selection. Pause while you think. The authors quoted Amelia Earhart because she was one of the most famous women aviators from the early 1900s and was a pioneer of aviation. Earhart's quotation underscores the author's point that all women aviators had to overcome cultural obstacles to pursue their dreams.